I had been a straight A student for most of my life until my second semester of my sophomore year, where I got a B in astronomy. I'm not an astronomer, I don't really care anymore. But that's also kind of a lie because growing up, I wasn't really that preoccupied with grades. I mean, I was a kid. I wanted to play video games and hang out with my friends. The weight of what grades are in shaping the identity did not hit until later middle school. I would say overall being a straight A student was great. It got me places and obviously got into a good college at the end of the day. However, there are some things that people do not mention about being a straight A student besides the burnout, besides the pressure, besides the lost time. And that is what it does to your identity and how you view the world as a person. By recording, great, because nobody just wakes up and decides like, oh, I want to be a straight A student and I want to have perfect grades. There is usually an external or a heavily internal thing that shapes you and puts you in this position, either by a pressure of wanting to go to college or wanting an approval of somebody else, i.e. parents or teachers, whomsoever. But as a kid who life prior to that was not particularly shaped by grades, but who gradually then transitioned into being a person who is becoming really good at school, is that it shapes your identity and it shapes your self-worth, because then you're a smart kid and you become useful. You can become a helping hand, and this form of transactional relationship of wanting to help, that I can build relationships by being useful, by being able to give. But to be able to do these things, I need to be a certain somebody, which is a straight A student, student who knows his shit, a good student. So if I'm not a good student, I'm unable to build all of these meaningful relationships, or meaningful at whatever time they were. Meaning that if I'm not a straight A student, that I will be lonely. And that for the middle school and high school me was terrifying. Another thing about having straight A grades is that there was an overarching goal to go to college. Everything in high school surrounds that particular big idea, and it kicks really heavy during like sophomore year of high school, where parents start asking you, oh, what do you want to do? What do you want to do as a career? Who do you want to be? And it also doesn't really help that everybody around you starts discussing these things, where this becomes a predominant idea in this pocket of society where, and let's face it, the better school you got into, the better rep you got. This was at least my impression. So there was an end goal to get into a good college and to get into a better college than everybody else, which also kickstarts this idea pretty hard. So we've underlined at least two toxic traits, and is that relationships can be transactional, and second, that if you work really hard, you can get really far. And the more you work, the better the results are. I remember being very self-conscious in high school. I remember being quite insecure and not really knowing whether I would establish any meaningful connections with people that would be long-lasting. What I did know for certain is that I wanted to create art, films, music, photography, sure, I'll put it out there. Anything that tickles the brain of mine. And I also remember having feelings of not really wanting to go to college, because I knew that I didn't particularly want to do any of like traditional jobs, right? And by traditional job, I mean like white collar work. But I knew that I wanted to be like in some sort of creative studio, in some sort of creative space. But another thing that I wanted in high school is to be left the fuck alone. The third major flaw that being a straight A student installed into me is that I can do everything myself. I don't need other people's help if I just pull myself by the bootstraps really, really hard and stay up all night studying and just rely on myself. Then I'll be able to come to the top and it's gonna be so very easy. I can just do it myself. Why do I need to rely on other people? I can't build meaningful connections anyway, so might as well resort into being in my own little bubble. Well, I will just improve myself and everybody will love me because how useful and because how productive I am and how much great stuff I can put out. That was quite cathartic, I'm not gonna lie. But then I started applying to colleges and I got into a pretty good college. However, I do consider myself quite lucky because I am able to pursue the degree that I want to pursue, which is theater. At some point, I thought I wanted to go into a film degree. Then I also got into a few schools that were in poli-sci and business. However, I found theater work and performance the most rewarding aspect of my craft, which was represented in my college applications. Most of the schools that I applied to were on the East Coast, but there was one school that I did apply on the West Coast, which was USC, and I got into there. Now I'm in my senior year of college. Life works in mysterious ways. But even though I was about to make this big jump for myself, the values and the framework did not go away. All of this toxic stuff that I've been talking about also transitioned with me. Quite literal mental baggage, if you may, on top of all of the other baggages that I still need to store. However, when I got to college, I knew off the bat that I wouldn't have enough time. Once I graduate college, I'm officially an adult, and then I will have an adult expectations. And all of these expectations, I'm gonna gradually go with each year until I'm gonna arrive into here. I'm managing. I'm managing quite well. There was a lot of self-installed pressure of wanting to succeed as an artist while also going to college and succeeding as a student. Where one, because of all of the prior things, took quite a big priority. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm pretty good at being a student. I am pretty good at doing this college thing, especially, well, I'm an arts degree, but I also needed to take all of the other classes that are non-arts. But they were pretty good too. Aside from astronomy and econ, I cannot do numbers to save my life. However, there was a lot of tension and, dare I say, resentment that I've developed towards school. I was under the impression that it was robbing me of time and energy to do all of the other things that do feel more important to me still. And even right now, I have like, what, several minutes before I need to go to class, and I still feel like, but I want to record this video. However, all of these toxic traits still did not go away. And what happened that this straight A student mentality, I also started to apply to my art, meaning that every time I would put out my art and it did not do well, despite my highest effort, I was very confused and very resentful because I thought to myself, but no, but I spent so much time and energy and money into this thing being good. Why don't people like it? Because I put so much of myself and it doesn't resonate with other people somehow. How does this work? The problem that I found is that all of these things do not particularly apply to art. That all of this rigidity, doing everything by the book, the pull yourself by the bootstraps mentality, and walking on heads mentality, does not particularly make you go places in a more creative, less rigid spaces, where sometimes doing a lot of hard work does not pay off at all, and sometimes doing less work pays off more, such as what I've seen with a lot of creative people on TikTok. Some people just put their phone and create skits from nothing by just recording themselves on the phone without many rehashed scripts, big studio, money, props, whatever. Just a really good idea, at least for this creative pocket that I'm talking about. And I remember this tension following me up until the first semester of my junior year, where I thought, oh, the more work that I'm gonna put out, the more good it is, the more better it's gonna be, the more people are gonna resonate with my work, the more, if I apply this straight A framework, which has worked out for me very well, and they did not necessarily go well. There's a lot of good things that school provides, especially knowledge, skills, whatever, many countless things. But these drawbacks that I've outlined did shape me a lot as a person in a very rigid way of I can do A all by myself, and if I do A, this will absolutely lead me to B. Whereas life is more complicated and more nuanced than this. Sometimes the arrow doesn't lead directly in a straight line. Sometimes it's very fucking wiggly and we go back and we go forwards, and sometimes we go behind, and sometimes we go God knows fucking where. Sometimes we do arrive at B, sometimes we arrive at C, and we might have not even known that D existed. So get this D. I am still figuring this moment out because, well, we're ever-growing creatures and we are constantly developing, so there's not an end goal and epiphany just like, thanks, guys, now I'm cured and I'm gonna do great and everything is fine. No, it's constantly ever-changing and constantly reshaping, and sometimes we do go back into old habits. I don't know whether the rambling... Where the fuck am I going with this thought? Something that I figured that being in creative spaces, you need to be more fluid, more conscious, more grounded, really. As a person who is head in the clouds, being grounded did really help me a lot. Creating relationships that are not superficial, that are based on actual, genuine connection about a certain thing, a certain topic of interest, whatever it may be. I don't know what the outline is. I don't know what the proper conclusion would be, but I guess there's still time. But not for me, because I have class at 2 and I don't want to be late because what am I? I am a good student.